Yes,
And
we
we're
are.
live.
Woo, woo, woo. I'm here
You
with
know what?
Seko.
Let me show.
Here with Seko. Seko Varner is here on tomorrow's show. Spreaker Podcast Radio. We are representing today. You guys make sure you download, like, subscribe, use it,
All of
thumbs
that.
up,
Thumbs
yes,
up.
all that, all
Yeah,
that.
no
You
thumbs
guys,
down.
please, yes. Big things. I'm so glad to have you on the show. Please, if you guys don't have it, if you guys need the app, the Spreaker Podcast, please download it. You can do it with Google. Was it Google and the App Store?
Right.
Either one. If you got Android or iPhone, either one, you can get us.
She's
either
lit.
one.
She's lit.
Either one.
She's lit.
So please download it. Download, like, and subscribe so we can, do this all the time. So I can bring you what you want, people. So I can bring you what you want. So today we got Seko in the building.
And she's
yes.
lit.
Yes.
And we're
yes.
live.
Seko.
Yeah, two podcasts is coming together. This is like
Yes.
a crossover. This is kind of like Marvel and DC doing a joint together.
Oh.
But I'm Marvel.
Well, who can I
You
be?
can be DC. You can be the DC Comics. I'll
Is
be Marvel.
DC, not just DC.
All right, so DC, you're looking at Superman. You're looking at Wonder Woman. You're looking at...
Okay, I
That's
could be
a
Wonder Woman.
Okay.
I could be Wonder Woman. Because
All right.
remember Wonder Woman back in the day, she do the spin and stuff.
Right.
Oh, man.
Right.
Man, what was her? Linda Carter?
No, Linda Carter was lit.
Man.
She was lit.
Oh,
She was
man.
lit.
Man.
All
I
right.
was like,
So
as
do
a
you know
kid,
about
I was
Nubia?
like, man.
Do you know about Nubia?
No.
All right, so here's the deal. For all my Marvel heads and my DC heads. Yeah. Anyway, so when Wonder Woman was created, her mother, who prayed for a child, the gods, one of them found favor and impregnated her with two children. One was
Really?
Diana,
Okay.
and the other was Nubia.
Hmm.
So Nubia is the Wonder Woman in the floating island in the sky. And she looks like her name, Nubia. And Diana, who often spoke Spanish, yes,
What?
was the Wonder Woman that ended up on Earth after,
Hmm.
So one
My
was
son
taken.
is big
Now-
on
now
that. I
check
wonder
this
if
out.
my son know about that
Now, here's
stuff.
the deal.
He's big on that stuff.
So Nubia was taken by her father and placed on the other island. Yeah, Nubia.
Now, why was she placed on the other island?
I don't know.
Did she do something that she shouldn't have been doing?
Okay, you're
Was
asking
it a
too much.
chastising?
I simply know that much, but I'm a Marvel
okay.
head.
Okay, you Marvel.
When I found out about Storm, I was like, oh, there we go. That's
Oh.
Team Me.
Oh, okay.
Storm
See,
from the
I don't-
X-Men.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know Storm from
Okay,
the X-Men.
okay.
I do know who it
Okay.
is, although I really don't know what happened.
Gotcha. I'm a
I was
nerd.
gonna try to play it off, yeah.
Nerds
I was
rule.
gonna try to play it off, but
I'm a nerd. I'm an old school nerd.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so tell me what happened with Storm. You might as well tell me now. Now I want to know.
And look, it's been years because I used to be a comic book nerd, and I really haven't even read comics in a long time.
Okay.
The movies have kind of messed me up.
Mm-hmm.
But make mine Marvel, and so this is kind of like DC and Marvel coming together. Because every so often, even though they're two different companies,
Does DC have all the cool superheroes?
they have cool folk too. Yeah, I was just more of a
Okay,
Marvel.
because you're
head.
Marvel, and it sounds like you got Superwoman and all that on your side.
Superwoman was DC.
Oh, okay. Well then, I'm okay.
So you had
What
Wonder
about
Woman.
Wonder Woman?
You
I
had
had both of them?
Superwoman. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Well, who you have?
Marvel Girl. I had talk about women.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, okay. Misty Knight. I had
Misty
Marvel
Knight,
Girl. We had Storm. We had the Fiery Phoenix.
Storm is vicious, though.
Yeah. We had the Ice Queen. I can't think of her name. It was just a lot of. Look, I love the X-Men. I love Luke Cage and Power Fist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm repping.
Yeah, I remember getting my kid that fist. Now,
Yeah.
is it the same?
Right.
Come out. Okay, that was bad.
So,
bad.
hey, look, it's two good podcasters coming
Yes.
together. The Tomorrow
Well,
Podcast.
tell us what your
and my podcast is
is.
the Fly Guy Show. The Fly Guys
you got the cool
Podcast.
with
So,
the dancing
we
and
have
stepping and
we have a little bit of something. So I have a couple of guests that star on our show when they pop up, and all of us have very different viewpoints.
Oh,
Like
okay.
my man Dan Omi is an atheist, a conscious womanist atheist.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And what's her name?
His name.
His name.
Right, Dan Omi.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Right,
Okay.
right. Yeah, he's just. Uh, Let me see. Is he paying for the sins of his earlier life? But yeah. And anyway, he got married, and he started
Is this
realizing.
a title, or is this really
No, if
doing?
you look online and you look for Dan Omi,
Okay.
DanTresomi, you'll see he calls himself an Afrofuturist, Afro Latino,
Ooh.
a womanist,
Oh,
a
wow.
b-boy, a t-shirt model.
Well,
You
he
know, that's my
certainly has
dude.
a lot of titles.
Yeah, he's title heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dan Omi is on there
It
from
seems like
time
an
to time.
interesting conversation, though.
It is because he's atheist. I'm not.
Okay.
We're
Wow.
both kind of.
So that really is interesting
Yeah,
conversation.
but
then.
yeah, we're
Does
boys.
it really get heated? Do you guys get into heated debates?
We actually know the same information, and it comes down to
Okay.
belief. At
Okay.
some point, after all the information is out on the table, and we all know the information, you either believe or you
Or
don't.
you don't.
And
Simple.
I believe. He
And he
doesn't
doesn't.
believe in anything supernatural. So he'll say, I don't believe in anything supernatural. I don't believe in leprechauns. I don't believe.
Oh, gosh. Wait a minute. Oh, gosh.
All right, so he's hurt some people's
So all
feelings.
that is grouped into the
To
leprechaun.
him, it's
and-
like anything supernatural he doesn't believe in.
Oh, okay. Wow. So what do you say to that?
What?
When he says anything supernatural, what is your response to that?
Oh, I understand that. I believe in the supernatural. If you're involved in Islam, or if you're involved in Christianity, or Judaism, or Hebrew culture in general, or if you're involved in any of the traditional belief systems, then you believe in the supernatural. You believe that there's a spirit world. You believe that there's a greater sense, there's a greater power out there. And if you don't believe in those things, then you're atheist. You just don't believe in the supernatural. So.
Right.
So,
I'd have
okay,
to say
and when
that
we
I
use the term
do
supernatural, it
believe-
kind of throws people off.
Yeah, it
So,
is. I'm like,
it's like-
supernatural. I mean,
Like if you've gone to church before,
I don't
they
believe in
talk about
Superman
things
or
being
anything.
in the natural
Mhm.
or the spirit world. We want the spirit of the Almighty God to come with us, and we want to deal with things in the natural world. So they're always they're just not using that term supernatural, and so people see that term and they get spookified, but they just don't understand the terminology. So Dan Trez doesn't believe in the supernatural.
Okay.
From time to time, we have Star Armstrong pops on there. All right.
Shout out Star, who's
Salute
also popped up on my show as well.
Right. So she brings her positioning and her insight.
Yes.
Yeah. And what's kind of
She's
interesting
brilliant.
with Star, she's straight up and down brilliant.
Yes, she
If
is.
you talk about the struggles that we have with popular culture and our values, and so Star kind of struggles with that. Like she'll
Right.
love some brand Nubian, but some of the messages, just a few of the messages that brand Nubian might espouse in their songs, she might not be able to get with. Some of the reasoning she may not be able to get. And I'm just using
Such
brand
as
Nubian. You have to talk. I'm just saying that Star kind of struggles with loving hip hop but hating some of the messages.
Okay.
Let me put it that way.
Okay.
All right. Good.
Okay.
Then we have Crumb Snatcher, who makes his appearance from time to time. And Crumb Snatcher is like that.
What is
We used to use the
Crumb
term conscious. Now people use the term woke. Okay.
And I like that.
Okay. So Crumb Snatcher is woke on steroids, drinking coffee after a workout. He's just that guy that's...
Whoa, that's deep.
Yeah, he's that guy that's just going to, break apart everything. Like, we had a discussion on messages in Walt Disney movies and other cartoons.
Okay.
Like, for instance, he went to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and he was saying that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles TV show was actually a clash between indigenous African melanated culture and European culture. And I was like, So he said, look at it. The turtles were named after European Renaissance artists. And they were fighting against guys named Bebop and Rocksteady.
That's deep.
Right, right. And so the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, who were representing European culture, were fighting an underground battle against popular culture that came primarily from people of African and Indian and indigenous descent.
Makes
So,
sense. Makes
yeah, and I was
sense,
like,
so-
okay, dude,
Wow,
okay.
wow.
And so then he talked about Peter Pan and the history of Peter
Wait,
Pan.
hold on, Seiko. Let me go back to the turtles. Hold on. Now, would you say all four of them? Cause you know,
All four of them was Leonardo,
right.
Michelangelo,
Donatello.
What was the last one?
Yeah, Raphael.
Raphael.
Right.
So, but that's a conversation I would really love for you to have a Crumb Snatcher.
Okay.
All right. So I'll do the
Because
introduction.
I'm really interested.
All right.
He had that philosophy.
Now the other one that we thought was really interesting is I have a daughter, and he was sharing with me, and we have kind of different views. He put together his thesis, and his thesis was that the Disney movies promulgated white supremacy and male supremacy. And the way he talked about it was that in the movies, the Disney movies, the early Disney movies, the woman's greatest accomplishment was getting married. The man's greatest accomplishment was beating up somebody. And for me, the way I looked at it, I said, well, it looks to me like the woman's greatest accomplishment was a significant relationship, and the man's greatest accomplishment was a significant accomplishment. And so he sees it a little more diabolically than I do. And we both agree that, and within the last 5 or 10 years, when the world really changed, once we hit the Aquarian age and all that stuff, 10, 15 years, that the messaging in movies have changed. So you see more and more women having significant achievements, but in many cases they're also coupled with a significant relationship in these movies.
That is true.
Yeah, so we looked at Proud Mary. My girl Taraji, Taraji. So at the end of that movie, even though the significant accomplishment was killing all those men,
right?
The end of the movie, she has a significant relationship with this young man who's kind of like a son to her, and that's when she has her exit off into the sunset moment.
Right.
But with the men who were the protagonists in even current films, getting a girl might be an accomplishment because you couldn't get that girl.
Right.
But it wasn't the significant relationship part of it. It was she was unobtainable, and you got her. Or you killed up a whole bunch of folk and you're the hero. But so for the men, it's still the accomplishment. And I'm not necessarily mad about that because I like seeing people accomplish things. And I'm glad that now the need to accomplish is more balanced. But in the early Disney movies, the woman always won because she got married at the end.
Is that winning?
Snow White, Cinderella. What? Is that winning?
Yeah.
I would say a significant relationship is important, and that's something that we're fighting for.
Good answer.
He would say she ain't nothing unless she's a man on the side. And so you see what I'm saying? So for him, it's more diabolical.
Okay.
And for me, it was just more, maybe I just see the world through rose-colored lenses, and he doesn't. Or purple-colored lenses. Yeah, salute that. All right, so that's Crumb Snatcher. You can find him online.
Crumb Snatcher.
And he's
look him up. You guys hear that?
Yeah, Crumb Snatcher. He's very controversial. He's very profane heavy. He's very smack you in the face. He's one of the people that wants to teach you by putting you down. Like, you're so stupid that you believe this. Can you still believe this stupid stuff? How stupid are you? He kind of approaches things that way.
Probably wants to hear where you're at and where you coming from.
Yeah, Crumb Snatcher and I disagree on a lot.
Do you?
But it's great conversation. And
well, everybody loves a good debate.
Right. And and then I have my cousin Sam, and Sam is kind of like that normal, regular guy who sees things in a real simple, not simplistic, but a really cut and dry manner.
Mm-hmm.
This is messed up. This ain't messed up. This is cool. This ain't cool. We need to be doing this. We need to stop doing this.
Mm.
So he doesn't care the historical ramifications or the historical roots of this problem. He's
Okay.
just like, yo, this is screwed up. We got to stop doing it. You know, me, I'm going to go into the history of it, and
Right.
I'm going to go into the societal influences, and Dan treads on me, and I will talk about that stuff, and Star will chime in from her viewpoint, and then Sam is just like, yo, dude, that stuff is screwy. So it's a really kind of interesting mix.
And I like how, and do you have a panel of all of these people at one time?
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
So
awesome.
you can find our Fly
Oh,
Guys
amazing.
podcast, hashtag Fly Guys, GUYS podcast on, well, you can find it on iTunes, you can find it on iHeartMedia. You can find the video sections on YouTube. So we actually post a video from our conversation.
Okay. So
And
we
but
can
the Fly
actually
Guys
see
podcast, right. But it's primarily
because
me.
I love the visual.
Okay, it's primarily me. Thank you.
Mhm.
I do have a nice visual.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Get right over here.
And not as good as it used to be though. At any rate,
It's okay. We get older,
but we're supposed to
we
get
like
better.
to think we get better. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're supposed to be like fine wine.
Yeah.
I think I'm getting better.
I didn't know you in the past, but you're good now.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, and
All
I
right. I'll
appreciate
leave it at
that.
that.
I think I'm getting better as time goes by.
And
The older we get, we're supposed to, now it might take a little more to
Right.
keep it together. A little more. I might need to put on a little more foundation, a little
Right.
extra. Find these fly hairstyles. Compliments of my barber.
Okay. Salute the
Ronald
barber.
Lanier.
Okay.
Love you, boo.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, I got a good barber, so it keeps me looking vivacious.
Okay.
Yes.
Huh. Okay. When I think of
You
vivacious,
said, huh?
yeah, because when I think vivacious, I think physical shape. I don't think hairstyle.
Well, can I just group it all together?
It's all good. It's the total package. I'll leave it at that. So look, we have two podcasters coming together.
Two
Fly Guys
podcasts.
podcast.
Yes. And people
tomorrow's
can
podcast.
always look you up
Yeah.
but you have not only Spreaker, but you have two Fly Guys. Wait, is that how we say it? Two Fly Guys? That's not. I got it wrong, didn't I?
Well, I have a number of podcasts, and the Fly Guys is the big one.
Okay, how many podcasts do you have, Seko?
All right, so I also have a show called Semi-Conscious Radio. And Semi-Conscious Radio is simply just a collection of thought-provoking hip-hop and a little bit R&B that normally doesn't make it onto the radio.
Okay.
So
when you say thought-provoking,
right,
what exactly
it might be
do you mean by
socially
that?
conscious. It might be aware. It might just be very lyrical, so it makes you think.
Mm-hmm.
Right now we're kind of in a trappy, we're in a vibe style of hip hop. We're in a wave. It's kind of wavy. So it's really the feeling that you get from the song, not necessarily the content.
Okay.
But so this music that I put together for Semi-Conscious Radio, some of it is based in 5% information. The 5%ers, God, Nation of God and Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Those artists. It might be just a quote unquote black conscious artist, like Killer Mike. Okay. It might be.
I'm sorry, but are these artists? Are you bringing them on the show and
interviewing
them?
I play their
or you
music.
Just playing all
I
of
just
their
play
music?
their music.
Okay.
Right. It might be
Are these
some of the
local artists?
Some of them, because some of the Christian hip hop that I have on the show are from local artists like Raiders of the Lost. They used to be here in Virginia Beach, Norfolk area. They're no longer here, but their music is still kind of turned. So I play that.
Mm-hmm. I had an artist that I interviewed, K-Tron, who's an R&B artist.
Oh.
And he's local, right here out of Portsmouth. And his music's pretty good. He did a little sample.
Okay.
on one of my episodes when he came here. I interviewed him in the show on the show, and
Good
that
stuff.
was really good. That was like my first R&B artist
Okay.
in the house,
You'll
so
have
I
some
was
more.
excited about
You'll have
that.
some more.
I hope that kind of opened up a whole new realm of uh, going adventures of going in all different ways
Right.
with the podcast because you can just go everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm finding
Right.
that
Right.
people contacting me and it's like something that I'm doing totally different than what I started out doing,
Mm-hmm.
which is promoting black-owned businesses. But I also, now I've interviewed R&B artists, and I'm about to bring a producer on the show.
Well, those are businesses.
I've done, I've also because you are running for.
I'm running for the Virginia Beach. Okay, drum roll. Isn't there a drum roll thing on there?
Oh, do they have a drum roll?
Yeah, if you click.
Where is it?
Okay.
Let's find the drum roll.
There's a drum roll on there, but I know that if you hit that, that'll give you applause.
Oh, well, do we have to do like that first and then do that?
I think you can do it while the mic's on.
Can you do it? Because see, and then you can't hear it.
Oh, but
Will
okay.
it still go?
It's still happening. It's still happening. All right, so
Okay.
hey, salute to my friends at Spreaker, and
Yes.
salute to not Dr. David Anderson. Salute to Dave Anderson, the business bully. He has a great podcast because he helped develop the Spreaker platform.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
good dude. He has a really popular podcast. It's called Business Bully. And he's kind of like Crumb Snatcher. He's a bully. He's just going to tell you you're messing up. But he gives a lot of great content in terms of how to change your mindset and how to change your mindset towards being more business minded and getting past roadblocks. See, people
I really
see
need to
walls
hear him then. I need to.
and they're really
Okay.
roadblocks.
Hmm.
And when you start seeing a wall as a roadblock, you roll over a roadblock. You just slow down a little bit. But if you see it as a wall, you stop.
So what do you do if you see it as a wall?
You need to change your mindset
And how do you do that?
by surrounding yourself with content that makes you think, that's thought-provoking, that's inspirational. So you need inspirational information, you need aspirational information, and you need directions. So, because if you're inspired and you have something that you're aspiring to, but you don't have the directions, it's not going to happen. If you have the directions, but you're not inspired to act on them, and you're not acting them for a reason, you're not aspiring to do something, you're not going to do anything. So we have the mix of the three, the inspirational, the aspirational, and the directions. I think that's the winning combination. And all of us kind of fight at different times. I'm running for the school board of Virginia Beach. All right. I have the inspiration. I'm aspiring to be on the board, but I don't have the directions. And so I'm struggling. I actually went to the Sorensen Institute, which is a part of University of Virginia. So I learned how to run an ethical campaign. So I have the understanding.
Okay.
But when you're running a campaign, it's similar to running a business. On a day-to-day basis, you need to do about 10 to 15 things to make sure that your business or your campaign stays alive. All right?
Okay.
And being inexperienced, there's some things I can read. So I have directions. But it's a little different. Like if you're driving from here to Atlanta, if you have the directions, you can get there, but you're always like, oh, am I going the right way? Is this the right turn? Do I turn here? But once you've had the experience of driving there a couple of times, you say, oh, okay, it was coming up. Oh, they changed the scenery. Oh, they have a new twist on this. I need to take this exit instead of the other exit, but I'm still going to get in the same direction. So
because you're familiar with it.
Right. So I have the inspiration, I have the aspiration, I have the directions. I just don't have the experience, which is kind of like the fourth leg of that stool. When you have the experience, then things just go a little better for you. So it's kind of interesting. I'm talking with more experienced politicians and people who've run successful and unsuccessful campaigns because you learn from them all. But my inspiration, and I'm aspiring to be on the school board because I would love to see, and my platform is safer, smarter, stronger. So safer schools and communities,
Okay.
stronger outcomes, smarter outcomes, and stronger programs. So, safer schools and community. We can talk about safe schools, but it's people in the community who attend the school, and it's things that are happening in the community that impact the school. So we can lock down all the schools all we want to, but there's still going to be problems in the community that will impact the school. So I would love to see initiatives that are not simply based on the four walls, figuratively, of that particular school. Uh, it might be the emotional health of the students and the community that they come from that is a part of our Safe Schools and Community Initiative. So, safer schools and community, smarter outcomes. I think that the school system does an excellent job with most of the students. Most. And so that's great.
Care to elaborate?
But great isn't good enough.
Okay.
Great isn't great enough.
No.
Good isn't good enough. I say that their school systems, and I'm just using this number not necessarily as a definitive number, but as an estimation.
Okay.
80% of the students are well served. So if you look at the bell curve, we know that 80% of the students are here. And then we have 10% here and we have 10% here. These 20% students aren't getting the best experience that they could in the school system.
Why is that?
For a multiplicity of reasons. But I think that we can offer a multiplicity of solutions and waivers and options for those 20% so they'll get a better experience. And get this, if these 20% get a better experience and their peers with the 80%, everyone rises. Everyone does better. So that when I look at the bell curve, it's the 10% of the students who are not ready for that grade level, who are having difficulty processing information for whatever the problem is. And I'm looking at the other 10%, which are on the other end, who are too far advanced for the experience they're getting in school. So what do you do for the students who are too far advanced?
Yes.
They're not doing it. That's the problem. If I ask the question, what do you do? Then we look for opportunities, programs, additional studies that meet their needs. And then for the students who are behind, what do we do for them? I don't think we're doing enough. I would like to see I'm not just simply looking at those 20, I'm not simply being an advocate for those 20% of the students who I don't think are getting the best experience. I'm being an advocate for all the students. I would love to see all of the students walk out of the high school workforce ready and workforce experienced. So, you might walk off workforce experienced and workforce ready and go to college. You might walk out of that school, walk off that graduation stage, workforce experienced, workforce ready, and go to the military. You might go into community service and do something with the Peace Corps. But the fact that you're workforce experienced and workforce ready means that you're a valuable person, more valuable than if you just graduated from high school. You might go and walk off that stage and walk into the business world, the workday world, and if you're workforce experienced and workforce ready, you're going to thrive.
Right.
Right now, our students aren't necessarily walking off the stage workforce ready, and most of them are not walking off workforce experienced. Now, I had a really different experience in high school. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
All right, salute my Buckeyes. All right, OH. All right, so
I was born
I
in
attended.
Ohio.
Okay,
Yeah.
some of the best women come from Ohio. That's what's up. All right. Yeah.
Although I didn't grow up there.
No problem. You were
I was
either.
born in Cincinnati.
Oh, okay. See, I lived in Columbus. So I used to go to
Not
Cincinnati.
bad.
We used to b-boy, breakdance battles against the cats in Cincinnati.
Oh, goodness.
At the skating rink, USA skating rink in Cincinnati.
Oh, when I used to go there.
Yeah,
too.
That's what's up.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. Okay.
Okay. So In the
We must
school
be
that I
around-
attended,
Maybe we were around the same age. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna be telling them. Go ahead, move right along.
okay, yeah, yeah, you look to be around 25. You know,
Hey, shut
okay,
up.
yeah,
Yep. Yep, I'm 25. Yeah.
yep. On Wednesdays in my high school, we had internships. So I didn't go into the school building my sophomore, my junior, my senior year. We went to an internship. So I had an internship at a law firm, at an architectural firm. Um, there was another firm I went to. And then the last 2 years, I was at a children's museum. So every Wednesday, I did,
Nice.
yeah, I did presentations
Mm.
on scientific things. There was one called the electrostatic generator, and it just showed how we can generate static electricity. And depending upon the grade of hair you had, you can place your hand on electrostatic generator, and your hair would stand up. And most people, the hair on your hands would stand up. But let's say you had a very fine coarse hair. We used to call it dog hair, but I'm not putting down anybody with straight hair.
Silky straight.
Right. You put your hand on there, and their hair
And
would
you just-
stand straight
yeah.
up. Right. If you had curly hair, your hair would uncurl slightly. In some cases, very
That's
much.
cool.
In some other cases, just
a
slightly.
little bit.
Right.
Okay.
Like with your hair,
It
with your
goes
braided hair,
slightly.
it would open up.
What?
Yeah.
These little curls.
Yeah.
These
the curls
some tight
open up.
curls. You see?
Yeah, we used to call them peasy. Yeah.
Peasy?
Yeah. Because they curl up like a pea.
Oh yeah.
Right.
You see these little ringlets? And
Right.
They go right back in.
It's okay, but it would stand. It would curl. It would uncurl.
And it would
a little.
uncurl.
Right. So I
Wow.
did those presentations. I did presentations with snakes and presentations with other animals.
And that didn't make you want to pursue that in college?
What the interesting thing is, I went to college. I went to Hampton University.
Shout out.
Okay.
Shout out.
All right. So anytime you say Hampton University, you have to clap. All
Okay.
right. Real Hamptonians know the
Clap
deal.
A little bit.
Right. Hashtag I was with Harvey. So I went to college under the idea that I was going to learn communications because my friends and I, who had a graffiti group, we were going to create an advertising agency. And they were they had better artistic skills. You know, we all did graffiti, but their artwork was, in some ways, mine was kind of cartoonish, and theirs was more Rembrandt-ish. Okay.
Ish.
So they were going to do the artwork, and I was going to study communications
Okay.
and minor in psychology so I could understand how people thought and how we can market to people based on how they thought. And so that was the whole reason, you know, my whole idea of going to college. I ended up graduating with a bachelor's in psychology. So
you definitely know how to read people.
well, just because you have the degree doesn't mean you have the skills.
Okay, so you don't have the skills. Is that
I'm
what
not saying that. I'm not saying
Okay.
that.
Well, you did say.
I just want to put it out there. A degree.
So you're not speaking.
I'm not speaking as a psychiatrist or a psychologist
Okay.
or anyone doing that type of counseling. I'm simply telling you my experience.
Okay.
Okay. So doing those presentations at COSI, which was the Center of Science and Industry. Wow. Doing those presentations allowed me to understand how to connect with people, how to relate with people, how to read people, how to read a crowd. So, yeah, I was around STEM at an early age. This was 80s, you know. I graduated from high school, I'm going to tell my age, in 86. So, 1986.
Oh, wow. You're
so,
old. I can't talk about it.
Well, what's crazy is you said we're about the same age. Now you spank yourself.
Oh,
Okay. My
Graduated
point
from
was,
high school in
everyone,
90, so
some of my, all of my
I'm right
friends.
behind you.
We're good. My friends, classmates, even my girlfriend at the time, we were all at COSI, and we did, the
Oh.
presentations, and all of us got something different out of it. My friends who ended up owning their own advertising agencies,
Oh.
they learned, from those presentations, they learned how to present and how to provide content to create advertisements.
Okay.
I, on the other
So,
hand,
and then
learned
they kept on
presentational
going.
skills and connecting with people and forming relationships and doing those other great things that come along with counseling. So
Okay.
the deal is, I walked off the graduation stage, workforce experienced, and workforce ready. So my friends who decided they're not going to college, they're not going into the military, they were able to sit down in an interview and say, "Oh yeah, I've been doing presentations every Wednesday for the last 2 years for tourist groups, for elementary school students, for middle school students, for high school students, for
And
people
they
from
were
Japan,
workforce ready.
and they were workforce ready." I handled the store. One of my friends, I think my girlfriend at the time, she actually ran the store at COSI.
Mm-hmm.
So she was able to handle transactions. She did ordering. She was able to do inventory um, and make predictions, forecasting based upon sales and things, all the great things that goes into running a business, and she runs a great business now.
Nice.
So my point is, workforce ready and workforce experience. Now everybody in Columbus, Ohio didn't have that experience. If you attended Columbus Alternative High School, so we're talking about Pegasi, that's mini Pegasus. I think it's Pegasi. We always argued about that. Is the plural of Pegasus, Pegasi, or Pegasus? And it might be both. All right.
I would
At
think
any rate,
Pegasus, but
it's all good.
that can be argued.
I'm not going to argue. I did that when I was in high school. I did that when I was in high school, and it got me nowhere.
Yeah, it wouldn't get us anywhere.
Yeah.
To argue about it.
The English people, they can argue on that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Then
people
we'll
who
let
study
them have that.
English.
Oh,
Study
yeah,
that.
English majors. Yeah, they
Right.
would get on us right
At any rate, they're always going to get on my case because they believe in the the American English language as the master, and I think it's just a great form. So I'll speak soulful English. I'll speak Spanglish a little bit with my daughter because she's studying Spanish, and I'll pick up on some words.
Oh, okay.
And I can
So you
speak
got
standard
all that.
English. So my point is, I see them all as all being valuable, while those who study English majors, in many cases, not all cases, in many cases, find that the standard English is the only way to go, and everything else is deficient. But that's another topic. My point is, I want to make sure that students walk off that graduation stage workforce experienced and workforce ready. So that's the smarter outcomes. So we talked about the safer schools and communities. Smarter outcomes is everyone walking off that stage workforce ready, workforce experienced. They'll be more valuable whatever route they go.
Okay.
All right. And in our school system now, there's a certain cadre of students who have an opportunity to attend things that will make you workforce ready.
Like what?
If you're involved in some of the VOTEC programs, or if you go to the ATC program, the Advanced Technical Center. But to get into that program, you make your reservation pretty much in the 10th grade, the end of your 10th grade year, and you're able to attend your 11th and 12th grade year. But we have some students who are finally waking up as to what their future may hold for them in their 11th grade year. And by that point, it's too late to join that program that will make you workforce experienced and workforce ready. Or the 12th grade year. They're like, oh, the light finally comes on. Some of us are late bloomers. And it's very challenging for those students to have a similar experience. Well, they're not going to get the same experience, but we can give them something similar, or we can give them something that will make them valuable so they can walk off that graduation stage workforce ready and workforce experience. And that's what I like to see. And then stronger programs. Well, I just kind of described what, some of the deficiency. Some of the programs that we can institute would be connecting with local businesses, big businesses, small businesses, mid-sized businesses, to make sure that when our students walk off that stage, they're meeting the need of the Hampton Roads community. For instance, right now there are employers like Still, employers like Uplay, who are seeking employees who have skills or a knowledge base that they can't find in Hampton Roads.
Hmm.
So they have to market outside of town. Well, I
for?
mean, each company is going to be looking for a different skill set for certain
I'm
jobs.
not familiar
And,
with Still.
Yeah, well, I'm just using, they
tractors and
you'll find Still with tractors as well, and
Okay.
and big machinery.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking for some people who can operate big machinery, but that's
Okay.
not all they're looking for.
Oh, okay.
All right, so if you look at, let's say, the Newport News Shipbuilding and all their other organizations that support Newport News Shipbuilding, they're looking for people with welding skills. They're also looking for people with management skills. They're also looking for people with computer skills. They're also looking for people with networking skills, computer networking skills. So there's a whole plethora of things that Newport News Building is looking for. And it's not just one entity. There are actually a lot of different small entities that support Newport News Shipbuilding.
Because Still is actually a big.
Yeah. So my point is, they often have to market outside of the Hampton Roads area for people to have the skills, credentials, and experience that they're looking for.
So all of Hampton Roads?
Yeah, my point. That's my point. They're not able within Hampton Roads to find the employees that they're looking for. And if you do a search, you can do a Google search on the economic state of Hampton Roads, and that may not necessarily be the title, but you can use that in the Google search. There's a report that's done every year, and it talks about the economic state of Hampton Roads and how often employers have to go outside of Hampton Roads to find qualified employees, and how often people, like for instance, there's a portion of that report that says these amount of people live in Virginia Beach, but they have to go outside of Virginia Beach to work. So these are people who live in Virginia Beach but work outside of Virginia Beach because Virginia Beach doesn't have the opportunities for them within Virginia Beach for their skill set or their criteria, their credentials. So there's this amount of people leave Norfolk and go to Suffolk, Portsmouth, Chesapeake. Some even go to Newport News to work because Norfolk doesn't have the jobs that supports their experience, credentials, right? Blah blah blah.
So you got to do a little bit.
So
of
my
traveling.
point is, there are very smart people who are looking at this thing, and from what I've gathered by listening to these smarter and more experienced people in workforce development and economic development, it's just saying our school programming are not putting out the type of students who can support our needs. Moreover, we're educating students. We're with our tax dollars, my tax dollars, your tax dollars. We're educating students here in Virginia Beach who, once they graduate, are leaving Virginia Beach because they don't find the opportunities here for them.
I believe it.
Right. Or if they go off to college or go off into the military, they're not returning to Virginia Beach.
Right.
They're escaping from Virginia Beach. So we're investing a lot into the education of our children, and then they leave. That's investing a lot of emotional time and care into a relationship, and then the person walks off. That's happening to us here in Virginia Beach in Hampton Roads. The people that we really love are walking away from us.
So how would you change that, Seko?
Oh, that's the great thing. There's so many businesses that if we were to connect with them, when those students walk off the stage, they can walk right to those businesses. Or when they came back from their time serving our country, they can go right to those businesses. Or they go off to a college, a 2-year college, a 6-month program, a 2-year program, a year and a half program, a 4-year program, an 8-year program, a 6-year program, and they come back more valuable to those companies and to the General Hampton Roads area.
Hmm.
There's ways by connecting with the resources here to make our students stronger, make them more valuable, and make people say, hey, I'm leaving Iowa and I'm coming to Virginia Beach because they have it going on.
Now, if you get to that point to where they are saying that,
And that's the direction I would love to see our schools in. So I can't do it by myself. It's a whole school board, and we have great teachers, we have great administrators, we have great staff, so we have great faculty in Virginia Beach. I think with some great support from me on some of those policy and procedure decisions, we can move our school system even closer. We have a great school system, but great isn't great enough. And that's why I want to be on the board.
I know that I have some coworkers who were complaining that their children couldn't get lunch assistance.
Okay. Those are federal
Is
guidelines.
that something that is across the board for Virginia Beach school systems?
You can check.
Like Norfolk school systems, they had the lunch, I guess the reduced lunch and all that.
City of Norfolk has a higher amount of students who receive free and reduced lunch. So much so that if they wanted to just give everybody free and reduced lunch, they could, because they have enough of those students. Now, I haven't looked at all their numbers recently. I don't know if that always holds true. I don't know if the regulations have changed. But I know that Norfolk and Portsmouth have a higher amount of students who receive free and reduced lunch than Virginia Beach does. And those are federal guidelines. So,
Because I know at certain schools they don't even offer free and reduced lunch in Virginia Beach. Like my daughter's school, they don't offer free or reduced lunch.
And they may not have
So that's
enough
something
children.
that was brought up, and since people knew that
Right.
you were going to be here today, that is one of the questions.
So how do we solve that issue for your daughter? Now
Yeah.
your daughter doesn't necessarily need it, but let's say your family was in a position where your daughter could benefit from a free or reduced lunch. Then that means that we have a policy in place that's unwavering. Like, for instance, I often say that Virginia Beach's policies and their philosophy aren't always aligned. So we say we want to make sure that we meet the needs of all of our students, but some of our policies won't allow us currently to. So I think there needs to be a reevaluation of some of those policies. And it might be a hoop that your family would need to jump through, but there should be an opportunity for your family to receive a waiver somehow to allow that. And I'm not saying that that's truly the case. I'm going by whatever you just shared with me. So I can't confirm or deny that, but what I'm saying is,
what should that mom do? What should that mom do? Should that mom go into the office and say, hey, this is going on? Is there some kind of policy in place? Since you don't offer this, then do you have a plan B?
I do think that's the place to start.
Is there a B or a C?
I think that's the place to start, because the people in the office who handle those decisions, and that would actually probably be the person who's in charge of the cafeteria. That person who's in charge of the cafeteria can sit down with their family and say, these are the people who make this decision for this school. These are the people we need to present your situation to. And those are the people that we need to get a waiver from. And once we have that waiver in place, if I have the waiver in place, if that it even exists, then we should be able to take care of your family here in this school. But the people in the school don't necessarily make those decisions, but they can tell you who to go to. And so I would say to that parent, if they're listening, start with I call them the lunch ladies. And that's an old term, and sometimes that people see that as being misogynistic or
no, but I don't think it is at all.
Well, yeah,
That's what I call them as a kid.
Even though
not
it's
to be,
right.
I'm just
So
trying to be
I would say
disrespectful
go
or
to
anything, but
go to the head lunch lady. Because that's what I grew up them being called, the head lunch
that's
lady.
what I was saying. I grew up
Right.
with saying that
And
and
that
not
head
trying
lunch
to
lady.
be disrespectful at all,
Right. But I mean, you can go on the website and you can actually find out what that title is, and you can use the appropriate title.
Right.
You know, they've earned that title.
Oh yes,
let's go with that title.
Me and Seko were teasing, but seriously, because
but
that's
I would
what
start
I
there.
growing up.
I would definitely start there, or you may want to start with the administration, the APs, the assistant principals, and the principal are also well versed on how it happened. But it's going to happen. It's going to be a couple of meetings.
This person was like, "Hey, well, I don't understand. I'm sitting here, and I don't understand why this is not offered to someone who, is just has that one income coming into the house, and what kind of rules are in place, because this is unaffordable for me. Granted, this person, and I'm not trying to,
let's
give information, with the respect to privacy, but being the minority, one of the few that are at the school, I don't know if that is a situation at the school, being there's a few colored kids there, so they don't offer reduce, as if to say,
Well,
because I'm really trying to, say without saying,
I got you. And I'll say this: the ability to provide free or reduced lunch at a school is not based on racial makeup. It's based on federal guidelines and the amount of students who meet those federal guidelines in a school. And I can't tell you what those regulations or policy. I don't know what they are right now. I will research it, because I'd love to come back and give you a second hit and say, this is what I found. I'll definitely do that. But I would say to that parent that the AP, definitely the P, the principal, or the head lunch lady, I hate using that term, that's what I grew up using, would be the person to start that process.
Okay.
And
so that's first of all, the first plan of action would be.
And being a single parent, or being the only income in the family, doesn't necessarily make you eligible for some of the federal benefits.
Because it's really based on your income. How much?
It's based on your income.
Yeah.
I had a family when I was the access advisor at Green Run High School who had over 5 children in the family. And it was one income. But that income was banging.
So they were no.
Yeah, they weren't eligible for some of the federal benefits.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with me, because I would have loved to have, truth be known, I would have loved to have my daughter on reduced lunch, but they said I made too much money.
All right, well that you know what that says, and I'm not saying anything negative really about somebody.
That, because
that's
how do
saying,
you know where my money's going in my house?
Well, your ability to manage your resources is different than the amount of resources you have. Yeah, that's kind of a hard.
I would have liked to have reduced.
Yeah, all of us would. I didn't get that either. So, my point is,
I was like, man, I don't know if my daughter to have it, because I surely try every year.
Safer.
Be known, I'm be honest, I try.
Smarter.
And they say, I put them little numbers in.
Stronger.
Can we just, maybe stretch the truth and bring it down a little bit and then see?
No.
Okay, well,
that would be disingenuous.
Would they check? Look, and I had somebody running for
I'm going to say yes.
Okay,
I'm going to say yes.
Okay, I'm
I'm going to say yes.
All right,
They're going to check,
right.
as they should.
Yes, they do. They
Right.
do. They do their job and they
Right.
do it well.
Right.
I try every
Hey,
year.
trust but
And
validate.
it doesn't
Trust
happen.
but confirm.
It doesn't happen for me. Whew, it's depressing. Because who wants to pay $3 a day?
Yeah,
My daughter is in Virginia Beach
Right.
schools. And,
Great program. What school?
$3 a day. A day.
How much do you spend on your lunch?
Me?
Yes.
I pack mine.
How much does it cost you to pack lunch per day?
Well, I cook and then leftovers, so I buy groceries once a month. And since it's just me and my daughter here, I maybe $150, $200 a month on groceries.
Okay,
And
so
then I cook. I don't buy fast food.
all right, let's just do some quick numbers. Let's do some
quick numbers.
$150 a month. $150 a month.
Right.
Divided by 2 people,
Mhm.
so that's like $75 a person a month. Okay. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So let's take that 75. I'm going to make that
And then
lunch and dinner. You're probably spending around $2, maybe $2.50 on each meal. So $3 isn't that far off. Now I'm not saying that you wouldn't love to have a discount on that price.
I would love to.
Yeah, but it's reasonable.
It's not really realistic, so.
I'm just saying that you're not getting fleeced. You're not being gouged.
I'm not.
No.
Because I kind of thought I was getting a little bit.
Yeah. I wish it was lower.
Yeah. I wish it was like $1.
Yeah. Yeah. At any rate, safer, smarter, stronger.
Okay.
Safer schools, smarter outcomes, stronger programs. That's kind of what I'm running on.
Well, what made you want to run?
The children. It's like this. Some people are concerned citizens. Some people are committed citizens. I'm committed. Some people say I need to be committed. My wife would probably say that. My son would probably want to have me committed right now.
Oh, no.
But
no. Okay, and
but
children.
I'm committed.
How many children do you have?
2 children. I have a son and a daughter.
Okay.
All right.
How old?
My son is 18.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A recent graduate from high school.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's my son right there.
And my daughter's a little
18.
younger. She's she attends one of Virginia Beach schools.
Oh, okay.
Beautiful
How old is
schools. 16.
Oh, she's 16.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
So, at any rate,
you don't have any more?
Actually, interestingly enough, when I was younger, I didn't want children, and I dated women who had children or couldn't have children. That was my MO. You already had your children, or you couldn't have children. Yeah,
And
we
that
probably
was
went out.
Okay, because you didn't really want. Okay.
Didn't really want them.
What changed?
It's the right person.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
You have to have the right person.
Yeah. I have to put it that the right person. My wife is
How long have you been married?
Ooh, she's put up with me for 20 years. I don't know how she does it. She's a saint.
She put up with
There's
you
a special
for
place in
20
heaven for her.
years.
People say there's a special place in hell for me.
Yeah.
There's a special place in heaven for her.
So that place is probably going to have lots of meds, and you're probably going to need them have to do with you.
They call Christ the Comforter.
Mm.
Yeah, so she'll be comforted.
She'll be comforted.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
nice. You're from here?
No, I'm a New Yorker. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and I was raised in Columbus, Ohio. I moved to Columbus, Ohio when I was 7, 8.
Okay.
And then I was accepted at Hampton University.
From
Columbus.
Oh, wow. Right. So you came out here when you got going to college.
Right.
And then you just stayed here.
Well, my parents moved from Columbus, Ohio to Chesapeake, then Virginia Beach. And after I graduated from Hampton, I stayed in the house, and my wife's aunt was the family matchmaker, and she kind of hooked us up, and we've been together.
And you've been together ever since.
Yep.
Oh.
Ever after.
Well, congratulations on the
Happily ever after on my
longevity
part.
and love and on your part.
On my part, I think it vacillates on my wife.
Oh gosh. Oh goodness. I hope she's
I'm a
listening.
pill. I'm a pill. I'm a pill.
Are you?
She's a saint.
Yeah.
Yeah. Long suffering.
Yeah. So it takes
But
a lot.
you know, but she supports this
Does she?
interest in
Because
the
you
school
do a
board.
lot. What other projects are you working on?
Oh man, that's I have ADHD, and it's obvious in all the things I'm involved in. You know, so I can go on for days about everything I'm involved in right now, and I'm really struggling to pull things off of my plate. And the school board run is actually forcing me to step back from some of the things that
You
I
probably
do.
need to.
Yeah, I need to become more effective. I mean, there's times when doing a lot is really beneficial, and then there's times when doing a little is very beneficial. And I'm moving in that point with this particular campaign. That I'm moving
During
to
the
the little
you're
is
able
going
to
to be more
focus more.
beneficial. Although doing the lot that I was involved in made me the valuable person that would be valuable to the school board. So,
Oh, good. Good.
yeah.
So on both realms, it's beneficial then.
Right. It's kind of like investing. You know, when
Mhm.
you're early investing, you can be very diversified, and you definitely want to invest in a way that takes risks so you can have big gains. But as you get older, then your risk tolerance is supposed to shrink
Mm-hmm.
so that you're focused more on preservation rather than gaining. And that's kind of where I am in life now,
Oh,
where I
okay.
did a lot of investing early on, and now I'm towards the maintenance portion. And I think my wife is enjoying that.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness. Now, is she involved? Does she help you? Very
Oh, she's very
in,
supportive.
in
She's
your
very
campaign
supportive.
and
Right.
everything?
Right.
Okay.
Very
Is she running
supportive.
for anything as well? Do we need to know about that?
She's running behind me and telling me what to do.
Well, that's enough. That's enough. That's enough right there. So, Seko, tell us about the Vancouver Network.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm involved in an event, a networking event that happens on a monthly basis called the Sankofa. The term Sankofa means literally go back and fetch it. There's a bird that's flying forward, but it's looking back and it's grabbing something, which can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. It's either an akan symbol. I don't think it's an andinker. It's an akan symbol. So it's from West Africa, and it can be interpreted in a multiplicity of ways. The easiest way that I look at it is know what you're carrying into your future. Know what assets you have. And if you're lost an asset, make sure you carry it with you and go back and grab it because that makes you a valuable person. But it can be interpreted as if you don't know your past, you don't know where you're going, or bring your past with you in your future because it makes you relevant, it makes you who you are. Don't run away from who you are. You know, those type of things. You can interpret it in many different
And I
ways.
like that.
Okay. So the Sankofa happens monthly. I got involved in it about a year ago, and it was formally on the second Wednesday of every month, and it was traveling. It went from business to business to business, and these were primarily these were all businesses that quote unquote black-owned businesses, and we went to these different businesses, and people would show up and talk about their business and what they were involved in, and when I got involved, I wanted to take it to a different direction. And so instead of traveling from location to location to location, I found a solid location where we can meet. Um, Instead of
nice.
just being focused on business, I said that our community doesn't necessarily just need another business network. We need to network in general. So if you're involved with a cause, if you're involved with a ministry, if you're involved with a business, if you're involved with a think tank, if you're involved in politics, if you're involved in education, I want to give us the opportunity to come together and know what we're all doing so we can make lifelong friends, lifelong connections, and have a lifelong network for which we can refer to. Any group that
It's great
insulates itself,
networking.
yeah,
Man.
thank you. Any group that insulates itself becomes stronger. and then it can do greater things outside of itself. Okay, so we have a network of activists, of people involved in religious, missionary, ministry work, people involved in educational pursuits,
Mm-hmm.
people involved in political pursuits, and businesses that come together on currently on the last Friday of every month. And we rub shoulders with each other. We learn about each other. We know about each other's family and
Mm-hmm.
children. But more importantly, we know what we're all passionate about doing. And so we can support each other. So there was a young lady who ran for the school board, and we all supported her. There's a lady who was building her consulting business. And to the ability that we all did, we supported that. There's a young lady who has a photography business. And those of us who are already involved with great relationship with photographers, we were able to support her business. For instance, on my children's birthday every
You're
year.
supporting mine.
Yeah, yeah. On my children's birthday every year, we do a family photo shoot.
Oh, really?
Right. And so we were able, because of the
okay.
connection that I made at Sankofa, we connected with a photographer, Tamika.
See, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's so good for as far
Right.
as networking.
Right.
Especially I've been able to interview people that I've met
At the Sankofa.
Yes,
Right,
yes, yes. So shout out.
Sweet,
Man,
sweet.
that's awesome. Amazing.
Sweet.
I
But
love that.
it's a brainchild of Bert Bergen. Bert Bergen owns a company called
Mhm.
Wear Black Biz, and it's pretty much a promotions
He's
and
coming on my show too. I'll be
good
interviewing
stuff,
him.
good stuff.
Yeah.
So it was his idea, and I said, you know what,
Mhm.
Bert? I would like to make it better. I would like to do this, and this. And he said, all right, Seiko, for 8 months, I'm going to give you the ability to make some changes.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, it started off at 6 months, and he's like, go another 2 months. And I said, go ahead and let's see where this takes us, because I like the direction it's going.
That's awesome.
So I enjoy that. That's one of the things I can pat myself on the back for, you know. And I'm been able to facilitate an environment. Oh, my battery's going dead, so I'm about to stop going live in a second. So salute to everyone else. You'll be able to catch us. You're on live too. This is on YouTube.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay,
Tomorrow's daily life.
Tomorrow's
Yes.
daily life on
Yes,
YouTube.
yes.
Okay,
So
all
you
right.
can come back and join on tomorrow's daily life, and you can still see Seiko. So please come over
So I'm gonna
over to my room.
come over to her.
You're welcome. You're
All
welcome
right.
in my living room.
All right, peace. All right, so that's one of the things I can pat myself on the back on, because I've helped to foster an environment where people can naturally make connections that can propel whatever they're passionate about. And ours is a little different because in addition to just networking with people and passing out your card,
Mhm.
we have interviews.
Mhm.
You know, it's kind of like the Today Show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like doing interviews right on the spot. That was
Right,
great.
right.
And like you said, you just meet so many amazing people. You know, like you had the teenagers there, the teenage entrepreneurs there, and I think that was great.
Right.
Oh, I just heard myself. Oh.
That was the replay. That was the replay.
Oh, are you making sure you got it on there? But that was great. Well, we had the teenagers, man, the teenage entrepreneurs there.
Right.
I was able to interview them right on the spot, so it was great. You know,
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff.
I just, you know, I think it's just a wonderful thing to be able to bring us all together. You know,
Mhm.
regardless of what you're doing, you know, what projects you're working on, you're able to, you know, use that as a platform,
Mhm.
and you know, and I just, for one, thank you.
Well,
for
keep
that.
coming. You're
So-
already linked up in the network.
I am. I'm
my
hoping
next
that
direction-
I do even better.
Right.
I'm trying to strive too.
Right.
I got steps I'm trying to climb too. So
Right.
I'm definitely going to keep coming because I think it's a fabulous thing that you're doing.
Well, like
So
they
I'm
say in
definitely gonna
AA,
support.
in
Especially
AA.
you're running for Virginia Beach, and I live in you know,
In
my
the beach.
residence. Yes, I live on
Good
the
stuff,
beach. So
good stuff.
so I'm definitely going to support that.
Well, keep
Talk
coming.
about
Like
it.
they say in NA and AA, it works when you work it.
Mm. Well, I'm gonna definitely work it, and
Work
I
it,
have
girl.
been working it.
Work, yeah.
Believe me,
Okay.
I have been talking the talk and walking the walk. I have been
Good stuff.
doing my thing. You know, hit the ground running. So, and I'm still running. I'm not out of breath yet.
Good. Well, we had a chance to discuss your story on my podcast, the
Yes,
Fly Guy
yes.
podcast. I think
Yeah.
your episode drops pretty soon, and so look out
Oh.
for the Fly Guys podcast, and look for a podcast that's entitled. Ooh, what is it entitled?
Oh Lord.
It says something like I was about to die, so I started a podcast. Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was a quote that she said. It's beautiful. So if you don't know a lot about tomorrow, that's a great way to learn about it. It'll drop. So
Yeah.
Fly Guys
I haven't
podcast.
really gave my testimony on my show just yet, because I want this to drop first.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, and definitely the biggest reason for starting it, is it definitely gave me a platform to be able to get back, and so much. It really, I get emotional talking about you, because I get to meet so many great people like Seko that, because I'm doing this,
Mm-hmm.
it's been wonderful.
Okay. Good stuff. Well, it's the episode is called "I Almost Died, So I Decided to Start a Podcast."
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yeah, and that's
I
going
love
to.
it.
Let me see. That's going to drop. Does it have the date?
Does it have the date?
It doesn't have the date now. Not on this particular page. But it's going to happen. Oh, you asked me about my podcast. So
Yes.
I have the Chicago Steppers Urban Ballroom podcast.
Oh.
And this is a collection of music
And
that
music
people do
is nice.
Chicago stepping.
Mm-hmm. And that's
You
what I
listen
was
to it?
talking about. Yes, I was.
Right.
Yeah, I
Or
listened
urban
to
ball
it
in
because I
Detroit.
like Chicago stepping. I
Okay,
do.
in Detroit, you call it ballrooming, and ballrooming is a little easier than stepping, but it still has that beautiful look to it. So
And
I play
really
the type
would
of music
love
to
to
do
learn.
that.
I don't really know except the R. Kelly one.
Right.
I really don't know any other style of, but I've seen it. When you watch YouTube and you see
Right,
them
it looks
stepping.
beautiful,
Man, it looks beautiful. Man.
Right.
Yeah.
All
So you need to do one, I think, overnight where we can do some.
That's coming up.
Chicago stepping.
That's
That
coming
would
up.
be
We're
awesome.
going to have a crossover with.
That would
There's
be
a
fun.
group called. I can't think of the name of the group, but I think next month. I haven't announced it yet because the paper hasn't been. The contract hasn't been inked yet. But at the end of the Sankofa, it's always a kickback. You can just kick back, hang out with people, and I'm
Yes,
DJing and
I
I'm
like
playing
that.
music.
Oh man, I like
but
that.
on
Man,
this
that was
particular
so
event
awesome.
coming up,
I had a good
we're gonna
time.
pull the chairs up, and the kickback is gonna be a kickoff. We're gonna really kick off with some dance. All right, so I have
That'd
that
be
one.
awesome. You guys
And then I
gotta
have
come to one of the same
Semi-conscious radio, and I talked about semi-conscious radio. And as you can see the iHeart signature there, so you got to go ahead and do your thing, girl.
do.
All right, and then soundtrack by Seko. So a lot of times when I perform, I'll record my set. So if I'm DJing a wedding or if I'm DJing
Yes.
a
Oh,
party,
we'll talk about that. Wait a minute, we didn't talk about that because you're talking about DJing.
right, which
but-
was something I didn't talk about.
Yes.
And then we have the Fly Guys podcast, and we talk about everything in a fly manner.
Which you
and
were
then
talking
we
about
have-
earlier. Yes.
Well, yeah, that's it. So those are my podcasts.
Man.
And I'm working on a new one. The new one I'm really excited about is called
Seko, how
Make
do
It Better.
you- Oh my God, how do you do so many podcasts?
ADHD.
I'm like full time and doing this podcast. I thought I was doing so with just
Oh,
this
you are.
Well,
You
my
are.
one
You're
podcast.
doing
You
big
do
things.
like 5.
Yeah, but you do it so much better on a focus. And if I were to drop off someone, like at some point, I'm going to drop off the Chicago Steppers Urban Ballroom. Once I get to maybe like 100 episodes, then I'll probably stop that one. Or if I get on the school board, I'm probably going to have to tear it down. Not tear it down, but stop doing the post. The semi-conscious radio, I'm going to do a certain amount of episodes and then just let that live. And, people who like conscious music will get a chance to listen to those episodes and enjoy. The Fly Guys podcast, I don't have necessary plans to end that. I don't have a set number of episodes. It's changed directions a couple times. Started off with Bert and I interviewing people and interviewing business owners.
I
and
didn't
then
know
it
he
moved-
interviewed people.
Yeah. The early episodes of the Fly Guy podcast, it was Bert and I. And we
Oh,
interviewed
okay.
people. And then
I
I
really
started
enjoy
adding.
interviewing business owners.
Okay,
I
and see,
really do.
that's
I
your
really
lane.
do. I really enjoy promoting businesses.
That's
do.
your lane.
do.
I think you do an excellent job of it.
Thank
So
you.
I don't need to
Thank
do
you.
that anymore.
Well,
And
thank
that's
you. Let me have
okay.
it. Thank you. Let me have it.
Yeah, that's your
You're
lane
doing
now.
enough, Seko.
Yeah. So now we move from interviewing business owners and interviewing cultural people involved in cultural aspects
Mm-hmm.
to discussing the culture. And so in discussing the culture and discussing things that are impacting American culture or the culture, if you just want to use that
That's
term,
great. Yes.
we've moved towards the pattern where we have two or three people that are just sharing their views on things.
Mm-hmm.
So the last podcast we did for the Fly Guys podcast was on male privilege. So it was three guys chopping up and discussing male privilege. The one that we're going to do tonight, as a matter of fact, is on the Me Too movement versus hip hop. Because the Me Too movement went after very powerful men in the entertainment, film, television industry, but it's going to move.
Mm-hmm.
And so at some point, people like Star are going to say, you know, I really love that song and that artist, but some of the stuff they talked about just isn't kosher, and some of it's triggering for people.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and I hate to say things that are going to be misinterpreted. So I'll say I support the Me Too movement, but I also support people like myself saying we need to kind of ratchet up our using the word ratchet mean to strengthen. Not ratchet is mean defaming.
Okay. I'm
yeah.
glad you.
Yeah, I had that. Yeah. Some people didn't
Some
realize
people
the term
that.
ratchet means to strengthen.
Okay. And I didn't either, to be honest.
Yeah, it was, yeah. All right. Read a lot of old English literature, and, early American literature that talk about ratcheting up the army and things of that nature. And that would have a totally different meaning.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. At any rate, so there's certain things
And you're doing that tonight.
Yeah, we do the Zoom. We use the Zoom platform. We're gonna go home and spend time with the kids, and because we're gonna be cutting this short in just a few minutes.
Yes, we are.
So, tonight we're gonna discuss hip hop and the Me Too movement, and like for instance, Nicki Minaj just recently discussed feeling bothered that some of the things she was doing on Instagram has led to an Instagram culture where women are prostituting themselves. They started off where they were just showing their bodies, and then showing their bodies and getting guys or whoever, girls, to pay to look at them, being voyeuristic. And that always is a slippery slope where you end up as a prostitute. So, like girls going to strip clubs, and I'm just going to take off my clothes, and I'm not letting anybody touch me. And next thing you know, they're letting people touch them, and next thing you know, they're prostituting themselves. And it's always been a slippery slope. So Nicki Minaj in a statement, and I'm not sure where she made the statement. I have to go back because I have the link.
What did she say?
She said something to the effect that there were some things that I did on Instagram, that have not forced somebody down this lane, but have led some young ladies astray, and it bothers me now when I took a look at what they're doing. Now it's kind of interesting, but she's always talked about I'm screwing this guy for the money, and I'm getting the money from this guy because I'm having sex with him, and Cardi B says the same thing. So there's always been a level of prostitution in their lyrics, and I'm not downing either one of them. I actually think both of them are pretty talented.
You think even with Cardi B?
And from then I get some money. And then I get some money.
Okay, you're right. Okay. I'm like, wait a minute. Okay.
I love the song.
Dang it.
And I'm not putting. She's actually talking about a reality that a lot of young ladies, a lot of people experience.
Well, that is true.
Right. the good and the bad.
It's the
And I'm not
world,
saying
it's the world we live in
right,
today.
right, right.
I mean,
So and it's the
you
world
know,
that we've
but
always
it's been
lived in.
happening though.
Yeah,
It didn't just happen.
right. It's the
You
world
know?
that we've always lived in.
Yeah.
She does a really great job of portraying it. Right. In a really pop, catchy manner.
Mm-hmm.
So, salute to
Yeah,
Cardi.
because you're just like, oh, hey, but then you really actually listen to the words and you're like, dang, is that true? How many people do we know? How many women do we know that have done that?
Mm-hmm.
How many in our own backyard?
Yeah, yeah. And yeah.
So yeah, and then I saw on a talk show. I don't know if that was that was Ellen, where they had a whole big debate over this young Korean, or was she the Chinese little girl who was dancing to that, who came to the States. Ellen invited her to her show, and she had to be no more than about 10. She didn't even speak English, but she had that song, and that's what made me think of that song, and she danced hip hop. Well, she was, pop locking, she was dancing, but the song was saying that. So I went online just to see the reviews, and the reviews of her dancing to that song, a lot of people were like, why would she pick that song? A 10-year-old, who would let her go on and,
me,
on the show.
Cardi B, P-popping for the charts, or P-popping on the charts. You know what P-popping is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. I don't know if you cuss in your podcast. I try not to.
Well, I really don't. Every now and then it comes out.
Right. So
I try not to, just because, just in case some young, my son, somebody want to listen to it.
Understood.
But
and so so we're going to discuss the Me Too movement, and because it's kind of morphed.
Can you explain P-popping first?
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I know it is.
You remember that song?
I wanted to hear him like
throw that P.
Say
throw that P. Or the male version, throw that D. Throw that D. Throw that D.
That's why.
Oh, hers is not clean.
P-popping.
Okay.
I had to actually think about what you were saying, because usually people just say, So for you to say, P-popping, I was like, oh, yeah, I know what it is, but then I had to actually really think about what you were talking about.
Gotcha. So, we're going to discuss that tonight.
Oh.
And we've also discussed.
I'm gonna have to tune in. And where do we tune in to those who are listening?
We don't do it live.
Oh,
so
okay.
Just listen to the Fly Guys podcast. And with our podcast, yours on Spreaker and mine's on Spreaker. You can hear it on iTunes. You can hear it on iHeartMedia. You can hear it on Acast. You can hear it on Blueberry. So there are a lot of,
now,
for instance,
when do you usually publish your episodes?
I normally do mine like 2 weeks later.
Okay.
Unless it's a really topical discussion. If we're discussing something that's current, then I might release it a little earlier.
Okay.
But I use the Podcast Addict podcast player. Okay. So these are all the podcasts. It's actually 3 or 4 pages of them. Yeah. So, like, for instance, Gary Owens, he has the Get Some podcast. I listen to Afro Pop Worldwide. Seth Godin has Kimbo, Alt Latino. That's a really nice one. It has a lot of great music. American Top 40. Andy Stanley Leadership Podcast. I listen to that. Angel Insights for Angel Investing. Soka Storm. This is Seth Godin. He has a podcast. The Dissect podcast is great. This guy, white brother, goes into hip hop songs, and he did a whole series on Kanye West. He did a whole series on. Can't remember who else he did a series on, but on the Dissect podcast, he goes through and he dies. Oh yeah, this one is. He's doing Frank Ocean. So this season he's doing Frank Ocean. So the Dissect podcast is great because he goes into and he really dissects and talks about the influences on. The first one was on Kendrick Lamar.
Oh.
And he went through Kendrick's first album, The Pimp a Butterfly. Well, not first album, but he went through the Two Pimp a Butterfly album. He went through song by song, and he talked about the influences of the song, what Kendrick was talking about, and it was just, he does an excellent job.
And what is this
Drink
called
Champs.
again now?
This is a podcast player.
Oh.
So people don't have to download Spreaker, because Spreaker is a podcast player as well. I like Spreaker as a podcast player. I just kind of like Podcast Addict.
Podcast Addict.
Right. This is Ed Stanley. The Ed Stanley podcast is great. I listen to The Breakfast Club on here. There's a lady named Malik Teal, and she does a really great job on her podcast, Malik Teal. This is the sister, Dr. Janae Taylor. She has Minding My Black Business, where she interviews black business owners, particularly those in the counseling space. Yeah, she's really heavy in that space. Principal Center Radio with Justin Baden. Since I was studying to be a principal, I have the endorsement, educational endorsement from George Washington University. So my bachelor's is from Hampton University. I studied at Old Dominion University. I received my master's in special education from Regent University, and my endorsement in educational leadership from George Washington University. While I was studying for my endorsement, I used to listen to Principal Center Radio, which is a great podcast on educational leadership. Reply All. Seth Godin has one called Startup School. Side Hustle Pro is a good one. Side Hustle School is great. He does a podcast every day, and he talks about side hustles or side businesses that people have and how they can turn that side passion into a profitable business. Does it every day. Excellent. The 1320 podcast by Daniel Pink. He speaks to one author about 3 topics for 20 minutes. The Breakfast Club, I listen to them on my podcast. Here's my podcast, the Fly Guys podcast. So this one was an interview I did with Star on Facebook, Fatherhood Conversations. This one was a throwback from 2015. I interviewed a guy who wrote a book called Mothers Please, and he talks about the problems that single mothers encounter and what he talks about decisions that single mothers do, incorrect decisions that single mothers do that lead to having sons that are dependent upon their families, dependent upon the system, or end up going to jail. So then I have Better Off With Me. I had a podcast called Daddy Man Radio. I did back in 2014, 2015. It's on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube, you can find Daddy Man Radio. And we interviewed fathers about 4 pivotal times in their life that were triumphant and 4 pivotal times in their fatherhood experience that were very challenging. And so the other one was Paul Brinson. He talked about how he was able to win custody of his son and the decisions he made and why he made those decisions. That one was great. This one is Star. She was raised by a single father. So these 3 are all based on fatherhood, because for Father's Week, I released 5 episodes, all of them dealing with fatherhood. So that's my podcast, the Fly Guy podcast. The Nod is hilarious. The Nod is Brittany and Eric, and they discuss everything. They're best friends, and they just kind of discuss everything related to black culture in America. So it might be why, quote unquote, blacks in America drink grape Kool-Aid more than any other Kool-Aid. Why we like the grape soda, why grape. And he did a whole expose on how grape flavor became really prominent in predominantly black neighborhoods. So much so that, look, she gave me a Propel and it's grape flavored. Was berry flavored.
Wait a minute, that's berry. That's not grape.
Yeah, that's because,
it might be a grape berry.
It's a grape berry. So, but the interesting thing is, the guy who created what became grape flavor was trying to create a different flavor. This flavor had a purple color, so he called it grape, but it doesn't taste like grape. So if you drink grape soda or grape Kool-Aid, it doesn't taste like grapes. And how popular it became in the black neighborhoods, because that's where he ended up selling it.
Because it doesn't taste like grapes. But that is an interesting thing.
Tim Ferriss has
I
a
might
great
have
podcast.
to have that. I might have to bite and have that on my show.
Tim
I might have
Ferriss
to
has
ask
a good
somebody
one.
that question.
And my man Dan Tres Omi, he has a podcast called "Where My Killer Tape At," and
Ooh,
he's the
that
one.
sounds interesting.
Yeah, he's the one who's the Afro Latino b-boy, Afro futurist womanist. So he's
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so he's always challenging me on my matriarchal or patriarchal or misogynistic. He just says I'm a mess. So,
Well,
yeah.
thank you, Seko.
Good stuff. Hey, I enjoyed this.
Appreciate you coming on the show. You have been absolutely amazing. You keep trying to make me hear myself. Now,
We're live.
I will hear myself. We are live. So I want to thank you for coming on the show. Please come back and see me sometime, man.
Bam! We'll do that once I'm on the Virginia Beach School Board. So
Oh.
vote for me on November 6th.
Yes, yes, yes.
My platform is Smarter.
You didn't say anything about that DJ thing.
Oh.
He's also a DJ.
Hashtag DJ Seko Varner or Positive Vibes Incorporated. I've been DJing in Hampton Roads since 1988, where I started at Hampton University.
Wow.
I played on campus for those 2 years. And
You
then
been DJing that long?
Well, I started DJing in 82.
Good. Cool.
That was the only way I can get out the house. And my father was a minister. He's an ancestor now. But he had me DJ for the youth group. And so I started off doing youth group parties.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
It's in the 80s. Yeah. So, I
Way
DJ'd
back.
in high school.
Way
I DJ'd in... You're going there?
I'm not going to go there anymore, but it's way back, yo.
And you said earlier that we look like we're about the same age.
Well,
So I must not look way back. Because you definitely
got
don't
me
look way
beat, okay?
You definitely don't look way back.
You beat by a few years, so I got to make fun of you because you're a little older than me.
Okay. It's all good. I've just stayed alive.
It's a blessing to get older, though.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely is.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Because we're still here.
Yeah, because my wife could have killed me years ago.
Yeah.
And probably
You
got
might
away
be
with
walking
it.
dead now. You walking dead now.
Yeah. So maybe I should not go home.
Yeah.
I'm going to drink this Great Berry Propel.
Yeah.
And,
Great. See? I did give you the grape one. Yeah.
see, it doesn't taste like berry.
Mm-mm.
At any rate,
But you
but
didn't
it's...
swallow any of that.
Yeah,
Because it didn't even look like you took a swallow.
it'll be gone later.
Okay.
I enjoyed being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, you guys, this was Seko Varner
Oh,
coming.
one last thing.
But
Robert Jelanis has a podcast, if you're Christian-based, which is pretty interesting. It's called Remembering Tomorrow Today. It's a really great show. Yeah. So I wanted to shout him
I feel
out.
like that was like geared towards me a little bit.
Check it out. They have some.
'Cause
His talk on Black
Remembering
Panther
Tomorrow
today.
Tomorrow.
Remembering Tomorrow Today.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I gotta check it out because
And
that
actually,
is
his
my
show
name.
is part of the It's called Remembering Tomorrow Today, the Sankofa Experience.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I thought when I first heard it, I was like, it's going to be too preachy for me. It's not my cup of tea, and I'm hooked on it. Yeah. So salute to him.
So then I guess it wasn't too preachy.
Either that or it worked on me. I don't know. It either worked for me or worked on me. Who knows?
All right.
But I'm out of here. You guys have a great night.
Wait a minute. Before you say that, wait.
Okay.
Wait. Okay. So the campaign.
Okay.
You said November 6th, right?
Vote for me November 6th in Virginia Beach. I'm running at large.
November 6th.
I'm running at large, which means all throughout Virginia Beach, Virginia, people were able to vote on me, vote for me. I mean, everyone's going to vote for me.
Yes.
It's interesting. We have five people in
I'm
the
gonna vote for Seko.
5 people in this this run for an at-large seat in Virginia Beach, and there are 2 seats. So 3 of us are going to walk away with our feelings hurt. There's one incumbent, Dottie Holtz, and she's done a great job. She's been on the board for years.
Jackie Glass, she ran for the Norfolk.
Right.
System.
Yeah, she's excellent.
So, yeah,
So
I love her.
there
I
are
was able to
5
interview
seats.
her.
I mean, there are 2 seats. There are 5 of us running. There's a young lady named Laura Hughes. I've met her at a couple of the Republican breakfasts. She's running for Virginia Beach Public Schools. We're running for the same seat. A guy named Bob
Oh.
Bellotti, Dottie Holtz,
So
a
you
guy
do
named
know the
Bob
competition.
Johnston, yes, and myself. I'm number 5.
Oh wow, the competition is fierce.
Yeah, and they're well established, so I'm establishing myself now.
How are you feeling about that?
This is stretching me. This is really stretching me, but I'm up for it. I'm
So
up
you
for
might
it.
have to drop some of them projects.
Yeah,
You want to drop some of those podcasts on me? I'll take them off your hands.
yeah.
You know.
All right. Cool.
All right, Seko. Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much. Please remember to
Vote on November 6th.
vote.
No matter,
Vote,
no
vote,
matter,
vote, vote,
no
vote.
matter if you live in Virginia Beach or not. We somehow, and I'm talking
Well,
in
if they
general.
don't live
in general-
Virginia Beach, they can't vote for
But
you.
listen, but November 6th is going to be an election day
Oh, okay, okay,
throughout America.
okay.
All right. So for those who live in America, too often we vote for the sexy campaigns. When it's, the presidency. But you're more impacted. Your life is going to be more impacted by what I decide on the school board than whatever our president decides.
Right.
Yeah. The senators, the congressmen, you're going to be more impacted by what our mayor in Virginia Beach decides than whatever your congressman does. So, as much as it's important to vote for the, presidents and the Congress, it's so important to vote for your school board. Look, Virginia Beach has. I'm going to use this number because I heard someone else use it. I didn't research and make sure it was absolutely correct. But $83 million of taxpayer money is decided, and though out of that $83 million, the school board determines how it's spent. Yeah, let that marinate. And once again, that's not my number. I haven't researched it.
Say 83 million.
They may have been wrong, but I know it's not thousands. It might be 3 million. But my point is, a great amount of your taxpayer money is budgeted by people who are on the school board, whether your child is in school or not. Some people say, oh, my child's not in school. I don't have children in school. They're all out of school, or I don't have children, so I shouldn't even worry. They're using your taxpayer money. And then the city council is deciding upon what things are going to really impact, if your city's going to have light rail, if they're going to keep the contract with the busing company. There's a bus company here in Hampton Roads, but city council could decide that we're not really interested in working with them. So I'm saying, so the big decisions that really impact your life are made on the local level, and people ignore the local elections.
So it's more important to
or equally as important.
Equally important, yeah,
Right.
That's a good word. Equally, it's a great word. Equally important because some people go in there and they're just like, okay.
Right.
So let's not do that.
Let's not. And let's become powerful too. Like, I want to say this, and it's going to be controversial. Getting the right to vote is the first step of becoming politically empowered. Joining a party is taking your vote and combining it so you're able to really have a powerful voice. Making people come to you is the most powerful voice.
I like that.
So how do you make people say, hey, this is my platform, this is what I want to do for you? Become independent. So being born makes you a valuable person. Being in a family where the family works together and cares for you makes. But when you're independent, you can step away and you can continue the legacy of your family. You become a more valuable person. You're more valuable than that child that has to stay at home with their family when they're 20, 30, 40, 50 because they never make themselves more valuable. Politics is the same way. So I'll let that marinate. People hate when I say that.
All right. All right. Was that your closing remarks?
I'm out.
That was Seiko's closing remarks, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, as always, for listening. Until next time, you guys. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you. And we are out. Bye.
Knowledge, knowledge. Knowledge, knowledge.
Time.